before Eli Tzion. The first of the Tzion's Lamed Vav, Tzion Halosi Shali L'Shlomo Asirayim, and immediately after that the last of the Tzion's before Eli Tzion, Tzion Geveres L'Malachos Mitzirayich Nem Dalet. This Kina represents the last cause, the last Puronios. Another aspect of the Bechia Shalchinom is Dibas Ha'aretz, by Yimosu Be'eretz Chemda. They didn't realize the Chashivas of Eretz Yisrael. They weren't interested in going there, weren't dealing with it properly. What we explained, the purpose of Eretz Yisrael is Klal Yisrael have a Mesima in this world. We are a Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. We are representatives of the Ribbono Shel Olam to the world, whether we like it or not. The Ribbono Shel Olam separated us from the nations of the world. Va'avdil eschem min ha'amim lios li. And in order to be able to create a society that represents that kind of Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, Omad v'yimodei Oretz, the Ribbono Shel Olam measured all the lands, and he found no land more suitable for Klal Yisrael to develop into a Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, separated and insulated from the nations of the world in Eretz Yisrael. And he found no nation more fitting to the qualities of Eretz Yisrael than Klal Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the place where we can be unique and be a Mamleches Kohanim, the antithesis of secular Zionism. Secular Zionism is Eretz Yisrael is the place we can be Kechol HaGoyim. We can have a country like every other country, nationalism like every other nationalistic body, and we can be like the Goyim and be normal. And Herzl thought that if we'll be normal, then the Goyim will love us. In Baruch Hashem, today we're normal. We have our own army and our own post office and our own police department. And as other Zionist thinkers said, we have to have our own criminals and our own perverts also. In Baruch Hashem, we have our own criminals and our own perverts, blue and white. And we're normal today, Baruch Hashem, and the Goyim just love us. They don't know what to do for us first. Not only haven't we solved anti-Semitism by becoming normal, but we created a new, more sophisticated anti-Semitism. Now the Goyim don't hate us because we're Jews with long noses. Now they hate us because we are occupiers, because we are conquerors, because we're Zionists. They don't hate Jews, they hate Zionists. Only thing, all this who are Zionists, everybody from the Neturei Karta to the most secular left-wing Jew, they're all Zionists. So it's the same Jews with the long noses, but now they have an excuse. We're supposed to be in Eretz Yisrael to be lo kechol hagoyim, to be insulated, to create a society that's a society of Kedusha where everything we do, every occupation, the Chassam Sofer says, that connects Klal Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael is mitzvahs Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, not just agriculture. A shoemaker in Eretz Yisrael is mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael because he makes it possible for people to settle and live here normally. And everything that a person does, if he does it with the right kavanah, is a mitzvah here. Ad kedei kach that the Chassam Sofer says that which it says, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai holds that a person can learn Torah all the time and not be involved in Hanei Gimoy and Minig Derech Eretz, only in Chutz La'aretz. Not in Eretz Yisrael. It's the opposite of what. In Chutz La'aretz, there you can be like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But in Eretz Yisrael, can you say that you learn Torah all the time, not put on tefillin? Says the Chassam Sofer, therefore, when there's a mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael with a Beis HaMikdash or whatever, then Yidden have to be involved in Yishuv Eretz Yisrael too. They have to be involved in Yosafta Digonecha. It's part of the mitzvah, just like putting on tefillin. So then you can't be like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, that you can learn Torah all the time. Then you have to be involved also in the Hanei Gimoy and Minig Derech Eretz. That's the Chassam Sofer in Sukkah. Eretz Yisrael is an Eretz Shalosech Sar Kol Bo. It's not missing anything. Eretz Yisrael's missing plenty of things. I mean, now maybe not, but when I came here 30 years ago, they didn't have Skippy peanut butter, they didn't have Hellman's mayonnaise, they didn't have all these staples of life that people couldn't live. They brought on their lift, cases and cases of these, because these are staples of life. How could you live without breakfast cereals or whatever? Today, Baruch Hashem, Eretz Yisrael has it, but didn't have it then. How could the Torah say, Lo sechsar kol bo? So Maisa, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai had a Talmud who went to Chutz La'aretz and became rich. He came back, with a fat cigar, a big fat wallet, and all the other people in the kollel there said, hey, we'll do the same thing. We'll also go to Chutz La'aretz and become rich. So Rav Shimon Bar Yochai saw he was going to lose his kollel. So he told them, we're going on a tiyul. Took him out to a big valley, and he said, valley, valley, fill up with gold coins. And the whole valley filled up with gold coins. So he told them, you need money? You don't have to go to Chutz La'aretz to get money. Eretz Yisrael can provide money for you. Go take. So they all ran to grab. He said, wait, I forgot to tell you something. Keep a record of what you grab because it's going to come off your Olam Haba. So they decided maybe they don't want it. Eretz Yisrael can produce everything. It's an Eretz Asher Lo Sechsar Kol Bo. The problem is, maybe if you don't have it there, maybe you don't need it. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe Eretz Yisrael can provide whatever you need to be able to live the kind of life you're supposed to live for this world and for the next world. And what it can't provide, maybe you don't need. So Vayimasu be'eretz Chemda, they were disgusted with Eretz Yisrael. I always like to say Eretz Chemda, the Rambam says, is wanting something enough to get it. But if you don't want it enough to get it, you're not over the Isra of Lo Sachmod. They loved Eretz Yisrael. Great place to visit. Nice place to go, take your slides, bring back a slideshow, whatever. But to live there, Eretz Yisrael is like Disney World. Nobody lives there. You just go there, to have a nice vacation. That's why Yimasu Be'eretz Chemda, the Marsha says. The Marsha says, what did the Meraglim bring back from all the Shivas Haminim? They brought back Te'enim, Rimonim, and Anovim, and that's it. Te'enim. What didn't they bring back? Chita, Sa'ora, right? Zayis. Why? He said, because they wanted to show that Eretz Yisrael is a great place for dessert. Right? All the luxuries that you can have there, but the staples of life, Chita, Sa'ora, Geffen, right? Forget about it. That's Eretz Yisrael doesn't have the staples of life. It's nice. It's Eretz Ocheles Yoshveha. People who want to become citizens and live there, forget about it. But it's not Ocheles Tayorela, right? Tourists, you can be a tourist. Just don't try to live there. That's called Vayimasu Be'eretz Chemda. There are all kinds of takonas the Chazal made to be mechazik, the yofi of Eretz Yisrael. That Eretz Yisrael should be beautiful, should be nice. People should want to live here. And in fact, in Chutz La'aretz they don't apply because the Rishonim say, who cares? Let Chutz La'aretz look terrible, right? Let it be filthy, disgusting. She shouldn't want to live there. She want to live here. That doesn't mean that everybody, until Mashiach comes, has to move to Eretz Yisrael. But it means that at least a person who doesn't live here should feel he's missing something. And the people who are here should feel that they're benefiting something. Should understand that you're benefiting. You have something that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't benefit. That Doros couldn't come here. And we have that opportunity to come here and not only come here and live, but live mamish Torah lives in Torah kehilos. Tremendous, tremendous benefit. Tremendous schus. And if you're not makir the schus, that's also called Vayimasu Be'eretz Chemda. And there's an Isra of Dibas Ha'aretz speaking bad about Eretz Yisrael. You know what that means? The Gemara says that Rav Ami and Rav Asi used to move their Talmidim in the summer from the sun to the shade, and in the winter from the shade to the sun when it got too hot or too cold. And Rashi says that they shouldn't complain about the weather in Eretz Yisrael. And the Rimi Gash says no, it's because they wanted them to praise her and speak good about the weather in Eretz Yisrael, not to say bad. And the Ben Yehoyada learns from here that a person shouldn't say anything bad about anything in Eretz Yisrael. The weather, not even about the Arab architecture, Arab houses. Shouldn't speak bad about it. Because that's called Dibas Ha'aretz. The idea is not that you can't complain about things here. You can complain, but don't blame it on Eretz Yisrael. Don't say, that's the kind of buildings that are in Eretz Yisrael. That's the kind of people that are in Eretz Yisrael. That's the kind of weather in Eretz Yisrael. Don't blame it on the land. Yeah, there are people here that you can complain about. and there's weather, you can complain. But it's not because it's indigenous to Eretz Yisrael, it's because we're not zoche to be able to have what Eretz Yisrael really can produce. If we'd be zoche, then we'd have an Eretz asher lo sechzar kol bo. So it's not the land's fault, it's somehow our fault, it's a fault of people who live here who distort the thing or whatever. That's called hibas ha'aretz. And I always like to end with the following. This year I want to add something to it. And with this we'll end. It says you're supposed to say Kinnos until close to Chatzos. I always thought that meant close to Chatzos on the end before Chatzos. But usually here we do it the other way around. Close to Chatzos at least after Chatzos. Close. We have a tremendous Nosson. It says before the Rebbeinu Shalom changes his handhog in the world, the Netziv says he puts the world through a dry run to see if we're ready for that change in handhog. When Mashiach comes, there's going to be a tremendous difference in the way the world is. The basic difference, first of all, there won't be Shibud Malchios. We won't be subservient to the nations of the world. Secondly, we'll all be in Eretz Yisrael. Thirdly, we'll all be together. Jews from all over the world are going to have to live together. Kibbutz Golios. Fourthly, we'll have a Beis HaMikdash and Mekomos HaKadoshim. And fifthly, and that's what I want to add now, we'll have a society where the Iker will be not the luxuries of this world, the Gashmias, but Torah, Avodas Hashem. That's what Mashiach is all about. The most ideal circumstances to be obeyed the Rabbanu Shalom, and to understand that that's the Iker of what everything is. So if the Rabbanu Shalom puts us through a dry run, that's what's been happening for the last, I guess, 200, maybe a little bit more than 200 years. The Rabbanu Shalom gave us a taste of Shibud Malchios, Bittul Shibud Malchios. That was called America. Up until America, wherever Jews lived, even if the Goyim were nice to us, and they gave us rights, but they conferred the rights on us. In England, in France, wherever it was. And they could take the rights away. So we were meshubed to them, even when they treated us nicely. In America came something new, democracy. Nobody confers any rights on you. They are inalienable rights. You have them. Nobody is giving them to you, and you're not meshubed to anybody. So we had a taste of what it means to be not meshubed to the Goyim. We were free, equal to everybody else. Some people passed the test and used that to build beautiful kehillas in America. And some people, unfortunately, use that to be free from Yiddishkeit altogether and to assimilate. And then the Rabbanu Shalom gave us a second thing, Eretz Yisrael. So we got back, like the Brisker Rav said, when they made Medinas Yisrael, was a smile from Hashgacha Ha'elyona. Unfortunately, it was taken and distorted. But the fact that we are able to live in Eretz Yisrael, we're able to develop a Yishuv here from the time of the Vilna Gaon and the Baal Shem Tov, and surely now in our time, where you just get on a plane and you can come here and live here under much better circumstances than ever existed before. So the Rebbeinu Shalom is testing us. I'm going to give you back Eretz Yisrael. Do you appreciate it? Do you go there if you can and live there? And if you can't live there, do at least you appreciate that you're missing something if you don't live here? Some people are passing. Some people are not. I hope the Rebbeinu Shalom grades on a curve. I don't know what the numbers are. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom said, okay, now we'll test you with something else. For years you didn't have access to Mekomos HaKadoshim. I'll give you back that access. Let's see if you appreciate the Mokom HaMikdash. I'll give you back one wall of the Har HaBayis. Before I give you the four walls of the actual Mikdash and everything inside, let's see if you can treat that with respect. Let's see if you can understand what it's all about. Some people are passing, and some people, unfortunately, are not passing. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom said, okay, you're going to have to live together with Yidden from all over the world. Let's see if you can do it. So he gave us a niktsas of kibbutz golios. And these came from Russia, and these came from America, and these people from South America, and Ethiopians, and all different kinds of Jews. You know, before we say, what's it called, Hu yigal osolu b'koro by Birkas HaChodesh, we also say Chaverim Kol Yisrael. Because if it's not Chaverim Kol Yisrael, better the Rebbeinu Shalom shouldn't bring us all together to kill each other. So he's testing us. Can you live with somebody else who's not exactly like you? Maybe doesn't even look like you. Maybe doesn't have the same minhagim as you. Doesn't wear the same yarmulke as you. Or everybody's just going to be able to live with people who are exactly like them, wear the same socks as them, and that's it. So that's another test, the kibbutz goliaths. And I was thinking the last thing is, are we going to be able to make use of Eretz Yisrael even when it's difficult? Even when it's not easy. To live here as an Am Segula, as an Am that is Moser to Torah, to live a Yiddish lifestyle in Eretz Yisrael and appreciate Eretz Yisrael. We said before, the Nisayin's going to be, we're going to come back to Eretz Yisrael, and we're not going to leave even though the situation is difficult, and it's going to become difficult. Without Nisim v'niflos, it's going to be difficult. Difficult financially, difficult for children, and who knows who's going to go to jail because they don't want to go into the army. Are we going to still appreciate the fact that we can live in Eretz Yisrael with all the difficulties? We live with plenty of difficulties in Golis. Worse than this. Much worse. Much worse financially, economically. They had to go into the Tsar's army, Cantonistim. Much worse. Much worse. Are we going to appreciate the fact that we still can be here and persevere even under difficulty, or are we going to say that Lamaisa, if it becomes difficult, we'll find other places to live? That's also Nisayan. Mirz Hashem, at least if we pass the Nisayan, the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't judge by numbers, but he judges by those people who know better, and he counts them keneged a lot of other people who don't know any better. And if we look at ourselves and not at others, how they're doing, what we're doing, and we're zoche to pass those 5 nisyonos, then those 5 nisyonos will overweigh the 5 puranos that brought us to sit on the floor today. We'll be able in Mirz Hashem to see all of those puranios disappear, and in their place come l'sason, l'simcha, u'lemoadim tovim. And next year, when we speak about Tisha being a moed, we won't have to explain what kind of moed it is, but it'll be pshuto kimashmo, moadim tovim, l'sason, l'simcha, and HaRav Zev Leff.